Shabbos Daf Kuf. Today's email comes from one of the guys of the Shir, Eitan Ugarik. He traveled from Ramat Bet Shemesh to New York for his mother's levaya on Friday. And he writes, he'll be missing some of the days, which will be very hard. And once he landed here, my mind right away was looking at the clock and saying, when is the daf? He's completely involved in the daf. So, your mother's neshama Miriam Bashmul Shmelka should have an aliyah. Our thoughts and our davening are with you. Water, since it moves, you would think that there's no hanacha. You're not really putting it down. You're putting it down on a moving surface. Yet the Gemara says, water belongs on water, and that's why that is its hanacha. But if you're to take a nut, a floating nut, and put it on water, that's not a hanacha. The Gemara has a suffix and remains in the take. What if you take a nut and put in some sort of other vessel? Do we view the nut relative to the vessel and it's not moving, or relative to the water, it is moving? Oil that floats on top of wine is machlokes whether or not, if it's truma and a tvul yaim, somebody who went to the mikveh for tumah but is waiting for Erev Shemesh for the sun to go down to become completely tar, if one touches the top oil, what becomes tameh? According to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, both are tameh, and on Shabbos it would be similar to the halacha of water on top of water. And according to Rabbanan, just the oil is pasul, and on Shabbos it's like the nut floating on top of water. Abai says in an interesting halacha, if you have a pit that's 8 tfachim wide and 10 tfachim deep, wide enough to make 2 bayros, and you put a reed mat right down the middle, and the reed mat takes up a little bit from each bar, so now you don't have even a single bar that's 4 tfachim. Each one is 3.999. Therefore, you put something into one of those bayros, you are potter. Rabbi Yochanan, who had a suffix regarding if you take dirt and you put it on the bottom of a 10 tfachim pit, are you mevatel that dirt to the bottom? Certainly, when it comes to a machzeles, to a reed, it won't become batel because a reed has value. But Abaya, who says his halacha by a machzeles, by a reed mat, certainly by dirt, he's mevatel it. Says Abaya, if the pit is full of water and you throw something heavy that sinks to the bottom, or you throw water on it, the water is not mevatel the pit. But if you put in fruit into this pit, fruit is no different than filling up a pit with dirt. And the fruit, explains Taisvis, it's like wheat, it's there to be stored for a long time, is mevatel the whole pit. And if you throw something on top of the wheat, it's not as if you threw it into a pit and you are a potter. The Gemara brings a raya from Shimon who says a very interesting halacha. If you're in the ocean and on the bottom of the ocean bed there's a carve out of 10 tfachim deep and 4 tfachim wide, that consists of Rishus HaYachid in the middle of the ocean. And if you throw something into that pit, you're chayev. Although ocean is a karmelis, that pit is a Rishus HaYachid, even though it's full of ocean water. So you see that water is not mevatel the pit. The famous Mishnah that we had a number of times, if you take something and you throw it like a juicy fig and you throw it on a wall that's above 10 tfachim, you are potter because it's not a Rishus HaRabim, it's above 10 tfachim, and it's not a Rishus HaYachid because it doesn't stick out or jot out. However, if you throw it below 10 tfachim, it's as if you threw it on the ground, and you are chayev. Reb Chia says, if you throw something above 10 tfachim, and it lands in a small hole in the wall, according to Rameir, we say a concept called choykikim. We carve out the wall halachically. We see the same halacha in machlokes by mezuzah. A doorway has to have 10 tfachim height by 4 tfachim width. What if you have on the bottom 4 tfachim, and as it goes up, it gradually arches? Halachically, we pretend that there's no arch, that it's squared out, it's carved out. So too over here, Rameir says you carve it out. According to Chachamim, you don't carve it out. There's a concept in English, the rise over the run. The Gemara tells us that if after 4 amos of an incline, you reach a height of 10 tfachim, that's as if you have a vertical wall, and that creates a mechitza. And the same thing we say by a mavoi, if going into the mavoi downwards, there's a incline 4 amos that reaches a 10 tfachim height, or going into Rishus HaRabim, they are both considered walls, and therefore in that mavoi, it's not necessary to put a lechi or a kaira for a heker. Very interesting halacha. If you, let's say, throw a frisbee 2 amos, and the wind takes it another 2 amos for a total of 4 amos, you are potter. What if you threw this frisbee 5 amos, and the wind stops it in mid-air, it holds it there momentarily, and then 180s it right back to you, you are chayev. because Rabbi Yochanan says it rested in mid-air. Rava says that although an object came within 3 tfachim to the ground, we don't invoke the concept of kluta. Even though we know the trajectory of this item and it's going to land very soon, there's no wind. It's not similar, says the Gemara, to what Rabbi Yochanan said a minute ago about this frisbee, and he had to come on to a pshat that it rested in midair. Why don't they just say that it's within 3 tfachim? And the answer is because we're talking about a wild wind. But Rav is talking about no wind at all. Says the Mishnah, if somebody throws in an ocean, which an ocean is a caramelist, if he throws a dalet amas, he's potter. There's something called a rekak mayim, like a giant puddle in the middle of Rishus Harabim that people walk through it. It still has the halacha of a Rishus Harabim as long as it doesn't have 10 tfachim. If it's 10 tfachim deep, then it turns into a caramelist, says Rashi. And the Mishnah repeats the same words twice, and the Gemara tells us to tell us the halacha that when people are inconvenienced by walking there, it's still considered Rishus Harabim, but if they're inconvenienced using a pit, let's say 9 tfachim, it's not considered Rishus Harabim. And the reason why it says the word rekak twice, to tell us 3 pshatim the Gemara, according to Rava. One is talking about in the summer that typically people would cool off. But in the winter, I would think people won't go through the water. Kamash Malan, they do. And if it just says the winter, I would say, well, people have dirty shoes anyway, so that's why they go through, but not in the summer. Kamash Malan. Abaye says that this rekak is Dalet Amos. And I would think that people, if it's Dalet Amos, they would walk around it. And if they walk around it, it shouldn't be part of Rishus Harabim. Kamash Malan, it is part of Rishus Harabim. Rashi says it's only 4 tfachim. And I would think, because people could jump right over it, but if it's larger, people won't jump over it. Komash, well, yes, and similarly, Rav Ashi says, when you have a bridge, and you have one step in the bridge that people don't like to use, it looks a little bit weak, and it's by itself. Nevertheless, if you throw something onto that piece, onto that board on the bridge, it's considered throwing it in Rishus Harabim in your chayev. If you throw something and you are in the water, which is a caramelist, and you throw it to the land, which is a Rishus HaYachid, or Rishus Harabim, or the opposite, or you go from the boat, which is a Rishus HaYachid, into the water, which is a caramelist, or the opposite. Or what if you go from one boat to the other, Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, you're all potter. The way to allow you to lechatchila to go from one boat to the other is to tie them together. If they're not owned by one person, you make an eruv chatzeros. In order to draw water from the ocean, you have to either make, according to Rav Huna, a little pipe, and you say, this is where I'm drawing water for as a heker, that typically you're not allowed to. Or, according to Rav Chizda and Rav Huna, you make a frame 4x4, and then you invoke the concept called gud achis mechitzah. That frame goes all the way down to the water. The difference is Rav Huna says that the caramelist starts on the bottom of the ocean bed. By the time you get to the top of the water, it's already a makom b'tur, therefore it's completely mutter. But Rabbah and Rav Chizda hold that the caramelist begins on the top of the water, therefore we have to make a much larger heker or a good achis mechitzah. Have a wonderful day.